The late afternoon sun hung low over Maple Ridge Estates, throwing a golden sheen over the manicured lawns and identical pastel homes that stretched down the curving cul-de-sac. The air smelled faintly of cut grass and chlorine from someone's pool, the kind of artificial suburban peace that made the place feel less like a neighborhood and more like a display shelf. At the end of the street, a moving truck rumbled beside a slightly older house. Cream paint faded by real sunlight. Not the HOA-approved eggshell tint the rest of the street shared. The grass was a little too long, the rebel in Unitu plain. It stood out like a rebel in uniform. Jessica Hart hefted a box marked KITCHEN from the truck, her sheriff's department t-shirt sticking to her shoulders in the heat. She was 32, tall, steady, the kind of person who moved like she'd been trained to expect the unexpected. But right now, she was tired. A long day of hauling boxes, a longer week of paperwork, and an even longer year of deciding to leave the city and start over somewhere quieter. Maple Ridge had seemed perfect for that. Across the street, blinds shifted. A woman's silhouette lingered. Then another. Jessica felt the weight of eyes before she saw their source. The squeak of expensive sandals on concrete drew her attention. Karen McKinley approached, clutching a leather-bound clipboard and a sense of authority big enough to fill the cul-de-sac. Her silver bob gleamed like armor under the sun. Her posture screamed control, precision ownership. She smiled, but it didn't touch her eyes. "Excuse me," Karen said, her voice syrupy and sharp at once. "You must be the new homeowner." Jessica set the box down carefully. That's me, president of the Maple Ridge Homeowners Association. She tapped her clipboard as though it were a badge. "We like to welcome our new residents personally." Jessica smiled politely. "That's nice of you. We take pride in our community." Karen continued, glancing up and down the driveway as if measuring every inch. "Vor HOA keeps the neighborhood clean, safe and uniform. I assume you've already signed the HER membership forms." Jessica wiped her hands on her jeans and shook her head. "No forms. My realtor said this property isn't under the AOA?" Karen blinked, as if she hadn't heard correctly. "That's impossible. I double-checked," Jessica said, picking up another box. "Lot 12B, excluded since 2008. Karen's lips pursed into a perfect line. "All homes on Maple Ridge Drive fall under our jurisdiction." "It's standard." Jessica straightened, her tone calm but firm. "Not this one. The previous owner opted out years ago." Karen looked down at her clipboard, flipping pages that fluttered in the warm breeze. "That can't be right. We'd have any record of that." "I can show you the paperwork," Jessica said. "But I'm busy unpacking, so maybe later." Karen's eyes swept over the front yard. A garden hose coiled messily by the porch, a wind chime clinking softly. "You'll find we had certain aesthetic standards. Garden ornaments must be pre-approved. Also, your lawn should be cut to no more than 2.5 inches. Jessica let out a small laugh. "I'll keep that." Marin didn't laugh back. "We've had problems before with non-compliant homeowners. It starts with one person ignoring the bylaws, and next thing you know property values plummet." Jessica turned toward her again, her patience thinning. "Karen, I get it. But this house isn't part of your HOA. So your rules don't apply here." The wind shifted. The street went quiet, like the neighborhood itself was holding its breath. Karen's jaw tightened. "You can't just live here and ignore the community's regulations. Everyone contributes." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Then everyone can enjoy contributing without me." Karen blinked in disbelief. "That's not how this works." "Actually," Jessica said evenly, "that's exactly how it works." Something flickered across Karen's face, frustration mixed with humiliation. Around them, blinds twitched again. Someone on the corner lawn pretended to water flowers while listening in. Karen's reputation in Maple Ridge was spotless. She'd built it on enforcing every bylaw, every fine, every perfectly measured hedge. The idea that someone could defy her, publicly, made her blood boil. Karen took a step closer, lowering her voice. "We've had troublemakers before. People who thought they were exempt, but we handle those situations." Jessica met her gaze, unflinching. "Are you threatening me?" Karen blinked, surprised. "Of course not. I'm just saying we value order here. Then I'll do my part by minding my business," Jessica said. "You should try it sometime." As she turned her back, grabbed another box from the truck, and started toward the house. Karen stood frozen, her cheeks flushing. The neighbor's eyes were on her. She could feel it, her authority, her image slipping like sand through her manicured fingers. She spun on her heel and stormed toward her car parked at the curb. Her movements were jerky, her mind racing. How dare this woman dismiss her? How dare she disrespect Maple Ridge? She yanked open the car door, tossed her clipboard onto the passenger seat, and leaned across the console, her breathing ragged. From the glove compartment, she pulled out a small silver handgun, a licensed weapon her husband had given her, for protection. Her fingers trembled as she gripped it, adrenaline pulsing through her chest. Back outside, Jessica set the last box down on the porch. She heard the sharp click of a car door and turned. Karen was standing halfway up the driveway now, her arm extended, the gun glinting in the sun. "Ma'am," Jessica said slowly, instinctively stepping between the gun and her front door. "Put that down." Karen's voice cracked with fury. "You think you're above the rules? You think you can just waltz in here and ignore everything we've built?" "Karen," Jessica said evenly, her tone shifting. Calm, authoritative. "You don't want to do this. Sign the damn HOA forms." Karen snapped, her hands shaking. "Or I'll make sure you regret it." Jessica's breathing slowed. Every training reflex she'd ever learned kicked in. Her eyes locked on Karen's trembling finger near the trigger. "Put the gun down," Jessica said, her voice low but commanding, the kind of tone that made people obey without thinking. Karen hesitated. A bead of sweat slid down her temple. The world around them went still. No birds, no cars, no chatter. Just two women, one holding a weapon she didn't understand, the other holding her ground like stone. Jessica didn't blink. Her hand inched toward her hip, where the weight of her badge, not her gun, not yet, reminded her who she was. Karen's eyes darted toward the houses, toward the neighbors watching from behind their curtains. She realized they weren't seeing a leader anymore. They were seeing a lunatic. Her grip faltered. Jessica took one step forward, voice firm but calm. "This isn't how you handle disagreements. You're not in charge here, Karen." "Not anymore." Karen's breath hitched. For a second her arm wavered, but pride and panic between control and collapse. Jessica's voice softened, but her eyes stayed sharp. Last warning, the sound of distant sirens began to rise on the horizon, faint but growing louder, cutting through the suffocating silence of Maple Ridge. Karen blinked, confused. Jessica didn't move, didn't smile. Just stood there, steady as a mountain. The game was about to change. Karen just didn't know yet how badly she'd already lost. Karen's arm trembled, the gun swaying slightly in the heavy silence between them. The faint hum of the neighborhood had gone eerily still. No children laughing, no sprinklers hissing, no dogs barking. Every window curtain on Maple Ridge Drive seemed to hold its breath. Jessica stood motionless at the edge of her porch, the afternoon sun cutting a hard shadow across her face. "Karen," she said, her tone even and slow, like she was coaxing a wounded animal. "You don't want to do this. Put the gun down." Karen's breathing was shallow. The weapon looked too large for her hand, too heavy for her trembling wrist. She had imagined control, imagined strength, but all she felt now was the sting of humiliation. So neat and orderly was unraveling before her eyes. "You can't move in here and ignore the rules," Karen hissed, though her voice quivered. "You think you're better than everyone. I think you're scared," Jessica said quietly. "And you're about to make that fear permanent." A drop of sweat rolled down Karen's cheek. Her finger twitched near the trigger. She wasn't thinking anymore. She was reacting, trapped in the echo chamber of her own pride. "Faye built this neighborhood." Karen snapped. "I keep it safe. I make it perfect." Jessica took one step forward, palms open. "You're about to destroy it." The moment stretched like glass about to shatter. The distant whine of sirens bled into the air, faint at first but growing louder. Karen didn't seem to hear them. Or maybe she did and refused to believe what they meant. Jessica's eyes flicked to the side for a split second. The reflection in a neighbor's window showed the flashing red and blue creeping around the corner of the cold dew-sack. "You really should have done your homework," Jessica murmured. Karen's brow furrowed. "What?" The sirens hit full volume now, washing over the street. Two sheriff's cruisers roared into view, tires crunching the pavement. Their lights painted the pastel houses in frantic color. Karen's arm dropped a few inches in shock. "What's happening?" The cruisers screeched to a stop at the curb. Two deputies emerged, weapons drawn, their voices booming in unison. "Drop the weapon." Karen froze, wild-eyed. No, wait. "I wasn't. Put it down." One deputy barked again. Jessica's voice cut through the chaos, unmistakably in control. "Stand down, both of you." The deputies hesitated mid-step, exchanging glances. "Sheriff Hart," one asked. His jaw fell open. Jessica's badge glinted in the sun as she slowly pulled it from her belt and held it up. The gold star caught the flashing lights like a revelation. "That's right," Jessica said calmly. "Sheriff Jessica Hart, County Sheriff's Department." The street went dead silent again. Even the sirens seemed to fade beneath the weight of the words. Karen's eyes darted from the badge to Jessica's face, then to the deputies. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again, but nothing came out except a strangled gasp. Jessica took another step closer, her voice low and cold. "You just pointed a firearm at a law enforcement officer." Karen stumbled backward, the gun clattering from her grip and landing in the grass. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "Doesn't matter," Jessica said, never breaking eye contact. "What matters is you aimed a weapon at someone over a homeowners association form." The deputies moved in, one securing the weapon with a gloved hand, the other gently but firmly turning Karen around to cuff her wrists. Karen's voice cracked, desperation leaking the shooter. I just wanted her to sign. Everyone has to sign. Not everyone, Jessica said. And not at gunpoint. Karen shook her head as the metal cuffs clicked shut. This is a mistake. Please, I'm the HOA president. I'm supposed to keep the peace. Jessica exhaled, a long, slow breath that seemed to carry the weight of the whole absurd afternoon. You're not keeping the peace, Karen. You're breaking the law. Neighbors had begun to creep out of their houses, drawn by the flashing lights. Phones were raised discreetly. Recording, whispering. The cold D-sack buzzed with gossip before the sheriff's deputies even finished reading Karen her rights. A woman in a floral robe stood near her mailbox, whispering to her husband. Karen's finally lost it. Jessica heard it. And for the first time all day she almost smiled. Karen's mascara had started to run, streaking her face as she pleaded with anyone who would listen. Please, I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted to protect the neighborhood. Jessica walked closer until they were face to face again. Karen's eyes were red, her pride crumbling like plaster. You wanted control, Jessica said softly. You confused that with protection. Karen blinked, tears clinging to her lashes. I just wanted people to follow the rules. Then maybe you should start with yourself. Jessica stepped back as the deputies guided Karen toward the waiting cruiser. The woman looked smaller now, stripped of her authority and her certainty. The neighbors parted as she passed, whispers following her like a wake. Sheriff Hart, one of the deputies said, we'll take it from here. Do you want to file the assault report personally? Jessica shook her head. I'll review it at the station later. Get her booked and processed. I'll handle the paperwork. As the patrol car door closed, Karen turned her head one last time. Her eyes found Jessica's through the window. For a fleeting moment, all that remained in them was disbelief. How quickly power had turned to shame. The cruiser pulled away, the flashing lights fading into the horizon. Jessica stood still for a moment, hands on her hips, letting the quiet return to the street. The onlookers began retreating, murmuring to one another, their perfect suburban calm slowly crawling back. A man from across the street, middle-aged with a wary smile, approached her. Sheriff. Welcome to Maple Ridge, I guess. Jessica gave a small nod. Thanks. Hope the welcome committee's not always this intense. He gave a nervous chuckle. Karen's always been a little tightly wound. I think everyone's been afraid to cross her. Well, Jessica said, you don't have to be afraid anymore. The man nodded quickly, grateful and a little embarrassed, before retreating back to his porch. Jessica turned toward her house, the last rays of daylight glinting off the badge still clipped to her belt. The moving truck sat half unloaded, boxes scattered across the driveway, her new beginning waiting patiently amid the chaos. She walked up the porch steps, paused, and looked down at the patch of grass where Karen's gun had fallen. The indentation it left in the blades was already fading, the evidence of the moment slipping away like it had never happened. Jessica shook her head softly, muttering under her breath, all this over a homeowners association. From down the street, a voice called, tentative and curious. Sheriff Hart, are you really moving in here? As she turned and smiled faintly. Looks that way. The neighbors exchanged glances. A new energy rippled through the cold D-sack, part awe, part relief, part fear. Word would spread fast. By morning, everyone in Maple Ridge would know the sheriff lived among them now. Jessica grabbed one last box from the truck and carried it inside, the sound of the door closing echoing down the quiet street. The night air was cool now, carrying with it the faint scent of jasmine and the lingering tension of what had just happened. Inside, Jessica set the box on the counter, leaned against it, and finally let herself breathe. She looked around at the half-empty living room, at the scattered signs of a life still in transit, and allowed a small, wry smile to surface. Welcome to the neighborhood, she murmured. Outside, the streetlights flickered on one by one, washing Maple Ridge estates in a sterile glow. The lawns gleamed, the houses stood perfect and proper again, as if nothing had ever disturbed their peace. But now, behind one of those neat front doors, the law lived quietly, and it wasn't written by any HOA.